Hello and welcome to Missouri Legislative Update. This month we bring you our program from the floor of the Missouri Senate. In this month's show, we take an in-depth look at the 2012 veto session and several other topics going through the General Assembly. I'm Jonathan Lorenz reporting for the Missouri House of Representatives.
And reporting for the Missouri Senate, I'm Dean Morgan. Lawmakers returned to Jefferson City for the legislature's annual veto session on September 12th. The session, constitutionally limited to 10 days, provides legislators an opportunity to override the governor's veto of most measures passed during the regular legislative session. 13 bills were up for consideration for an override vote this veto session. Of those, only Senate Bill 749 received a motion by the General Assembly for a veto override. Senate Communications correspondent Brad Bayshore has more on Senate Bill 749.
Senate Bill 749 was approved during the final hours of the regular legislative session in May. However, the governor vetoed the measure in July. The bill's sponsor, Senator John Lamping of Ladue, says his bill provides protections for religious beliefs regarding the imposition of certain health care services, such as abortion, contraception, or sterilization, and was filed in direct response to the Federal Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act passed by Congress in 2010. During veto session in the Senate, Senator Lamping called for a veto override vote and explained the importance of his bill.
Employers today choose how to pay their employees, what benefits to offer their employees, when employees choose to offer health care as part of the compensation package. In January of this year, the Obama administration announced on late Friday afternoon that when employers do in fact choose to offer that benefit, that they would now be obligated to adhere to very strict things be included. Things that religious organizations have long not included in that benefit, things that disagree with their religious beliefs.
Assistant Minority Floor Leader Senator Jolie Justice of Kansas City spoke out against the veto override by stating that Missouri's Constitution already provides these types of religious protections.
We have current law that already states that employers and insurance companies, should they have an honest objection on a moral ground, can opt out of this coverage. And at best, this is a cheap political stunt that restates current law. At worst, it just creates another obstacle to women accessing birth control. It's unnecessary, and frankly, I'm upset that we have to spend time on it.
The Senate would later approve to override the governor's veto of Senate Bill 749 in a 26-6 vote. The House followed the Senate's lead and also adopted the override motion, garnering the bare minimum 109 votes needed to overturn the governor's action. Most provisions in Senate Bill 749 became law immediately. Other provisions in the bill not containing an emergency clause took effect in October. It's been 9 years since the General Assembly voted to override a governor's veto during a veto session. In 2003, the legislature overturned the veto of 3 bills, including legislation that authorized conceal and carry permits for firearms in Missouri. Reporting for the Missouri Senate, I'm Brad Bayshore.
Members of the Missouri House returned to the capital city with an agenda that included more than just the annual veto session. Lawmakers tackled veto legislation and more during their return to the state capitol. The Missouri House of Representatives gavelled in for the annual veto session with several items on its agenda. First up, elect a new speaker to serve out the remainder of former Speaker Steve Tilley's term. Lawmakers elected Tim Jones to serve the remainder of Tilley's term. The former Majority Floor Leader will serve out the remainder of Tilley's term before the House votes on a new speaker in January for the 97th General Assembly. Following the day's election, lawmakers moved to overturn the governor's veto of Senate Bill 749. The vetoed legislation protects employers who refuse to provide a health care plan that offers coverage for abortion, contraception, or sterilization because of a religious objection. Supporters of the override claim the legislation is all about giving business owners the ability to do what they think is right.
These are benefits to help the citizens of this state survive, work, grow their families, and live here. And in no way, shape, or form should we be telling them morally that they have to go against who they are and what they believe.
However, some opponents argue the vetoed legislation could have unintended consequences.
I think if we cut off the contraception to women, we're going to create more abortions. And I'll never vote for anything that would create that possibility.
Supporters narrowly approved the motion to override the governor's veto of Senate Bill 749 by a vote of 109 to 45. Following the veto session, members of the majority party met with the Capitol Press Corps to discuss the day's events. Despite overriding the governor's veto on Senate Bill 749, Speaker Jones admitted he had his eye on overriding another piece of legislation. Before the start of the veto session, there was speculation the General Assembly would move to override the governor's veto of House Bill 1329. The vetoed legislation aims to reverse a court decision handed down earlier this year denying local municipalities the ability to collect local sales taxes on out-of-state vehicle purchases. Despite passing the proposal with more than 120 yes votes, House leaders were unable to secure enough support to attempt an override. The newly elected Speaker claims the governor needs to step up and address the issue.
Besides vetoing the bill, he, to this day, has really proposed no alternative solution. I have said several times, and I'll repeat it again here today, that I would welcome his call for a special session. We could have had one this week. All 104 of us, plus majority of the Democrats, were up here.
If the governor does not call a special session, Speaker Jones believes the sales tax fix will be a priority during the 2013 legislative session. Up next on Missouri Legislative Update, lawmakers take a look at the state's aging infrastructure system, and one joint committee is tasked with changing the way the state deals with criminals. That and more after the break on Missouri Legislative Update.
I'm starving. What's for breakfast?
Guten Tag!
Johannes, Franz!
I bring you arts-enriched Raisinblums, fortified with increased test scores and creative problem-solving skills.
It's good!
And good for you. Bobby? Susie? Don't worry, that's just the power of the arts!
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong together.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Every parent knows the feeling. You look away and your child is gone. Imagine if he or she were actually abducted. Sign up at wirelessamberAlerts.org to get free Amber Alert text messages on your cell phone. If you did help an abducted child get home, just imagine what his parents would be feeling. Wireless Amber Alerts. A child is calling for help.
In the event of a big emergency, and I'm at work, my daughter's school is 2 blocks away. That would be a very convenient meeting place for all of us.
We'd meet up at his parents' house.
A meeting place? Not really.
My husband would definitely pick up the girls from school.
I would want to make sure that she has the girls or is on her way to get the girls.
I know that there's a plan, but I don't know what the plan is.
Welcome back to Missouri Legislative Update. The question of how to pay for infrastructure improvements is getting asked again in the Missouri Senate.
For the last decade, funding transportation has been a topic of conversation. However, in recent years, this has been set aside because of a questionable economy. But the topic is moving back to the fast lane. Senator Bill Stouffer of Napton co-chairs the Joint Interim Committee on Transportation Needs. The panel met for the first time last month in Cape Girardeau.
And had excellent presentations from Kevin Keith and Bill McKenna. Also had the port authorities, folks from MoDOT, the deal with the Port Authorities, and then the CMO Port Authority was here, and then some input from public transportation folks that deal with rural public transportation, and had an excellent group of folks. There's a number of needs in the state, and we know what those needs are. We just have to figure out how we're going to pay for them, and we had good input, hopefully a productive hearing.
Senator Joseph Kevaney of St. Louis also serves on the committee.
Yes, transportation is all-encompassing. People just assume it's just highways and roads, but we have to deal with ports, we have to deal with railroads. Everybody wants their fair share of the pie. Again, we heard from some of the agencies, some of the departments. We didn't hear any public comment. I'm sure that will come in upcoming meetings. The focus is on the revenue. We have to figure out a stable funding formula. We're falling behind just on the maintenance of our existing structure.
Senator Stouffer adds, the question is, how does the public want to support transportation? He says there has been no change in the federal or state fuel tax.
The fuel tax in Missouri income stream has decreased 2% a year for the last 3 years, and that will continue as we go to electric cars and more fuel-efficient vehicles. Missouri has a tremendous advantage in being in the middle part of this country. We're within 10 hours of half the population of the United States. We have the second and third largest railheads in the country. We have the Mississippi River and the Missouri River. We just need to upgrade our facilities a little bit so that we can take advantage of our natural position where we are.
Senator Kevaney says transportation funding discussions resumed this year with a bill aimed at toll roads.
Well, that, and, we rely a lot on the gas tax, and it hasn't been increased in over 20 years. And, the price of gas recently has stabilized. Mileage in automobiles has gone up, so gas tax isn't generating the revenue that it once did.
The Joint Interim Committee on Transportation Needs will continue to meet throughout the year.
With the next legislative session just a couple of months away, various committees have met during the interim to discuss issues likely to be discussed when lawmakers return to Jefferson City in January. Senate Communications correspondent Daniel Clote has more.
During the 2012 session, the General Assembly approved legislation that tasked the Joint Committee on Education with creating a funding formula for distributing state funds to public colleges and universities. The move was part of a compromise reached after certain lawmakers opposed a $2 million funding increase for Southeast Missouri State University included in a budget bill for fiscal year 2013. The funding bump, which was eventually increased to $3 million and divided among a handful of higher ed institutions, led some legislators to question the equity of how the state divvies up funding for Missouri's colleges and universities, an issue a higher education funding formula would address. Senator David Pierce of Warrensburg, who serves as chairman of the committee, described the legislature's overall goal during the first committee hearing in September.
We are always trying to do all that we possibly can to make sure that we get as much out of our teachers as possible, and yet still provide a very positive education climate, that our teachers are allowed to excel. And I think another thing is that we need to make sure that we are providing a climate where we encourage young people to get into education. And we have always got to be looking at the next generation and to make sure that this is something that we want our best and brightest to enter into, because we've got to have great teachers to have great students.
The Joint Committee on Education will continue meeting throughout the interim at various locations across the state. The committee must submit a comprehensive funding formula for Missouri's higher education institutions by December 31, 2013. Meanwhile, the Joint Committee on Child Abuse and Neglect has also been conducting hearings in recent months. The panel is studying and analyzing the state's child abuse and neglect reporting and investigation system and devising a plan to improve the process for removing a child from a home. Senator Joseph Kevaney of St. Louis, who serves on the committee, predicts they'll hear a lot of testimony from the public on the issue.
I would expect to hear some lively public testimony about this. It's a hot-button issue. It's very emotional. We actually depend on our teachers to be a reporter on this. So there's going to be a lot of testimony. It's a very important committee. I look forward to really getting something accomplished here.
The committee will submit a report with its recommendations to the General Assembly by January 15, 2013. Reporting for the Missouri Senate, I'm Daniel Clote.
Missouri lawmakers have been meeting every Tuesday over the past few weeks to discuss a potential revamp of the state's criminal code. Senate Communications correspondent Brad Bayshore has more on the work of the Joint Interim Committee on the Missouri Criminal Code.
Headed by Senator Jolie Justice of Kansas City, the The Joint Interim Committee on Missouri's Criminal Code is reviewing more than 700 sections of state law in an effort to reduce duplicative and conflicting provisions upon a request by several state prosecutors, public defenders, judges, and lawmakers.
And it is something that I think is going to deserve a lot of time and scrutiny, and it's something that I think many of us are willing to put in the time on, because we know that it's time to go ahead and take a look at all of the laws that we've passed over the last 30 years or so and help streamline those so that we can have the most efficient and cost-effective administration of justice in the state of Missouri.
The committee is made up of lawmakers from both the House and the Senate, which include Senator Jolie Justice of Kansas City, Senator Bob Dixon of Springfield, Senator Mike Parson of Bolivar, Representative Stanley Cox of Sedalia, Representative Rory Ellinger of University City, and Representative Jay Barnes of Jefferson City. The group has held 6 public meetings to discuss several areas of law, which include sentencing guidelines, imprisonment laws, sexual offenses, drug offenses, and many other topics within the state's criminal code. Revamping the state's criminal code is a task that has not been undertaken since the 1970s, when the effort was led by then-state Senator Ike Skelton.
I just want to make sure I've been contacted by numerous attorneys dealing with criminal law, and I just want to make sure that I'm on the right page and I understand. And Mr. Lamb just indicated that we are not going to be dealing with issues of decriminalization. So is that accurate, first of all, or could we, as a body, make another determination? And I just kind of like clarification from the co-chairs regarding that, because if in fact that is the law, then we our charge. That is our charge.
The Joint Interim Committee on the Missouri Criminal Code will file a report of its recommendations on November 15th for lawmakers to review before the 2013 legislative session. Reporting for the Missouri Senate, I'm Brad Bayshore.
Coming up, as Missouri Legislative Update continues, we will say goodbye to past and present Missouri senators and representatives. Plus, the Missouri Senate's leader joins his predecessors and takes his place in history. Stay tuned.
We were in an emergency situation. We don't have extra. We have a little bit of water and a little bit of food. A meeting place, no.
No. For the family to meet?
No.
Sure, they're juicy and delicious. But did you know fruits like melon and mango are packed with vitamin A to help you see better? Eating fruit can also help make your teeth, skin, and hair healthy and strong. Can your food do that? Run, throw, think, eat better. Find out more at smallstep.gov.
I got no pulse, we're losing him.
Sergeant, he's in VFib.
Shock him. Drives it real all the time. We just had a few drinks. This can't be happening.
Are we clear?
Clear. We just buzzed. Just buzzed? You didn't tell us that, sir. You're right, this isn't happening. He'll be fine.
I feel good.
Really? No, not really.
Buzz driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal.
Shock him.
Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better.
Underneath everything we are all people. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
This can't be happening. This can't be happening.
Of course it's not happening. Armored car. Listen, having money isn't about luck. Make your own coffee, save $1,000 a year. Feed me.
Feed the pig.
Welcome back. The Missouri Senate recently said farewell to several retired and retiring members. Senate Communications correspondent Brad Bayshore shows us how fellow colleagues and staff showed their appreciation during a special ceremony for the class of 2012.
Please remain standing for the national anthem.
The Senate retirement ceremony coincided with veto session and was the final chapter for 3 retired and 11 retiring senators.
And the home of the brave.
After a presentation of colors by the Missouri National Guard and a singing of the Star-Spangled Banner, each honored member of the Missouri Senate was treated to a special tribute given by fellow colleagues. After the tributes, retiring members were given a chance to address members of the Senate and their staff and families with a final farewell speech. Some paid tribute to their staff and co-workers, while others gave thanks to the voters who sent them to Jefferson City. Everyone agreed about the importance of having a representative body that mirrors the people of the state.
You share all these life experiences and your family becomes much larger, and those relationships will move on and continue on, and I certainly appreciate and treasure that.
But I know that we work together, that we do our work before we come here, and we do the best that we can, because not only do we represent our districts, we represent the 6 million people for the state of Missouri, and they rely on us to make the right decisions for them.
We are all just people trying to do our best to make things better. And what sets you all apart is the level of effort and engagement that you've been willing to give in your lives to try to do that.
It's not the laws. It's not the amendments. It's sure not those guys in the hallway who, in about another 10 minutes, probably aren't even going to speak to me because they don't need anything. And if you see through all that, and you remember that ultimately it's the people back home, but in this body, it's each other. If you sort of work with each other, that's the purpose of a Senate.
The Senate will welcome several new members in January. We'll introduce you to these newly elected officials in the coming months. Reporting for the Missouri Senate, I'm Brad Bayshore.
During the annual veto session, outgoing members took a moment to say goodbye to their House colleagues. In this next story, we give you the sights and sounds of those goodbyes.
This place binds us all in one great sisterhood and brotherhood. It binds us for our conscious call to a nobler action.
We're public servants.
Take the time to do the right thing, because it will be over before you can blink your eyes.
Mr. Clark, please ring the bell and open the board.
What's always good for your district is what we should be voting on. It may not be good for the state in some cases, but what's good for your district, that's who sent you up here.
Follow your heart.
You know, from day one, all I wanted to do is earn the respect of the people I serve with.
We fight like the Hatfields and McCoys, and we have no idea why we fight.
Sometimes we get a little emotional, but not too often.
What a wonderful ride this has been.
We served 8 years. We did the best we could. That's all we can ask, and thanks for allowing me to be part of this for 8 years.
And it is about the shared experience. And I want to thank you for that wonderful shared experience that I've had with you for the last 8 years.
This is an awesome place to work.
And to all of you, may God bless you and be well.
The outgoing president pro tem of the Missouri Senate has forever been immortalized on canvas.
Senate Leader Robert Mayer of Dexter joins his predecessors on the wall of the Pershing Gallery. During a ceremony held in September, Senator Mayer calls this a humbling experience.
You know, it truly is humbling, and you all probably don't know it, and you probably don't want to hear all this, but for me, as a person who grew up about 6 or 7 miles out of a community called Dexter, Missouri, and grew up on a farm, I never dreamed, I know my mother and my dad, who's passed on, probably never dreamed that I'd have the opportunity to serve in the legislature and the House and Senate, much less be pro tem. But
Senate Minority Floor Leader Victor Callahan of Independence says he has enjoyed his time working in the upper chamber with Senator Mayer.
You know, when I think of Rob Mayer, who is my friend and I've had the honor to serve with, I think of the word gentleman. I think of the words kindness. I think of the word sincerity. I think of the words commitment.
Senator Mayer has served as Missouri Senate President pro tem for 2 years and is finishing his second and final term in the Missouri Senate. He also spent 4 years in the Missouri House.
And that's our program for this month. If you have any questions about the legislation in the Senate that appeared on this program, please visit www.senate.mo.gov. On this site, you can also find the contact information for the 34 members of the Missouri Senate, as well as a link to the Senate's newsroom website. I'm Dean Morgan reporting for the Missouri Senate.
And I'm Jonathan Lorenz reporting for the Missouri House of Representatives. If you have any questions regarding anything going on in the Missouri House, you can visit our website at www.house.mo.gov. For all of us with Missouri Legislative Update, thanks for watching. We hope to see you again next time when we preview the upcoming legislative session. Thanks for watching.